welcome to the Week 12 edition of Instant Replay, where I give you my take on the most controversial plays from the weekend. I'm Simon Borg. We start in Montreal, where the visiting Timbers were on the wrong end of all the big calls early on. First, the 12th minute penalty for Montreal, and I'm not sure why Portland's Sebastian Blanco is so stunned that he was called for this. He pulls back on Vladimir Zemaili's left shoulder and lets go, but by then he's thrown Zemaili off balance. That's a penalty to me. Referee Jair Marufo calls it, and Ignacio Piatti gives the Impact the lead. Then about 5 minutes later, it went from bad to worse for the Timbers when midfielder Diego Chara saw red. He swings his forearm into Piatti's face, and yeah, red card is about right for me. But with 10 men, the Timbers were still efforting a comeback when there was a shout for a handball in the Montreal box. But as you can see from the replays here, Laurent Simon's arm is tucked all the way in, and the ball caroms off his elbow. No handball for me, and referee Jair Marufo, who's right there, says play on. Next up, RFK Stadium, where the big talking point was the goal by David Accam, which was enough for the Chicago Fire to claim all 3 points in D.C. And assistant Eric Weisbrod keeps the flag down on the pass over the top. And from this freeze frame, we can say for sure that Weisbrod nails it. The Fire were up in arms over this tackle by DC's Lloyd Sam in the 67th minute, right in front of the Chicago bench. And the foul is called by referee Eladio Grajeda, but no cards are issued. I thought Sam came over the ball and endangered the safety of Brandon Vincent, and I would have gone straight red. Grajeda didn't have the benefit of the replay, of course, and he was actually closer to the midfield circle, and his benchside assistant Danny Thornberry did not flag it. To Vancouver, where I thought referee Baldomero Toledo did a great job not calling a penalty in the 41st minute when Cristian Bolaños goes down between 2 Kansas City players. I don't see a foul there. But Toledo did point to the spot for a Vancouver penalty in the 51st minute, and I think this is spot on as well. That was defender Seth Sinovic running into Vancouver's Freddy Montero and not the other way around. But the Colombian can't take advantage as Sporting keeper Tim Melia makes the double save. Another big decision in this one came in the 65th minute on this Roger Espinosa takedown of Vancouver's Alfonso Davies. An ugly, ugly challenge that I felt endangered the safety, although Espinosa also seemed to lose his footing. But I thought in this instance, he was graced by Toledo, who issues him a yellow. In Seattle, the Sounders won by the minimum scoreline 1-0, but Real Salt Lake wanted what would have been a potentially equalizing penalty in the 59th minute when Jefferson Savarino goes down in the box. But no whistle was forthcoming from referee Kevin Stott, and I agree. Savarino was simply not strong enough on the shoulder-to-shoulder challenge with Seattle's Christian Roldan. Stott did call a penalty for Seattle just a few minutes before, and this is a no-brainer as RSL defender Chris Schuler takes out the right leg of Sounders attacker Jordan Morris. But Clint Dempsey could not convert from 12 yards out. Speaking of Dempsey, he was involved in an interesting play with former U.S. national team companion Kyle Beckerman, who delivers this gratuitous kick on the follow-through. No foul called by Stott. To Atlanta, where we saw 2 penalties called by referee Alan Chapman. First, in the 79th minute, Houston defender Adolfo Machado looks like he bumps into Atlanta's Tito Villalba from behind. Chapman points to the spot, and I agree. Then, in the 89th minute, it was Houston's turn to earn a penalty as Atlanta's Jeff Larentowicz is called for the handball. To me, this is similar to last week when we saw FC Dallas's Carlos Grueso make contact with the ball also from the ground, and that play was not punished with a penalty. Similarly, I thought Jeff Larentowicz in Atlanta was already down on the ground and well into his sliding motion before Houston's Ricardo Clark makes his cut move. Not sure what Larentowicz could have done with that arm, but ultimately these are judgment calls by the officials who evaluate a number of factors like proximity and the player's movement toward the ball. Chapman pointed to the spot and Cubo Torres scored his 9th goal of the season. One last play from Atlanta. The crowd was up in arms when Tito Villalba hit the deck in the 52nd minute, but Chapman doesn't call a foul, and I think he's right. When we look at the replay available, it seems like Villalba makes contact with Machado's shoulder, and there's no foul here to me. Eventually, the Dynamo's goalkeeper puts the ball out of play so Villalba can be tended to, and he drove the ball to the sidelines in the direction of Atlanta coach Gerardo Tata Martino, who kicked it back on the field of play. And that, folks, was enough for Martino to be dismissed by the referee. Another head coach got himself involved in the proceedings as Minnesota's Adrian Heath left his technical area to enter the field of play in an attempt to get the extra ball off the field. But you may remember this was a point of emphasis way back in 2013 when it was made clear that bench personnel are prohibited from entering the field of play at any time. In this case, Heath reportedly got a talking to from the 4th official. Fast forward to the Minnesota penalty shot in the 64th minute when the ball deflected off the top of the shoulder of the Galaxy's David Romney. Now, we all agree that's not a handball, but referee Chris Pencil wanted to be absolutely positive, so he went over to speak to his assistant, Jeff Mushik, and he made sure the players couldn't overhear the conversation by spraying the white line about 10 yards away and instructing them to stand behind it. Remember when we saw Jose Carlos Rivero do this for the first time back in Week 9 in Kansas City, and what do you know? It works. Hey, double kudos to the assistant referee Mushik for also making the right call on the Christian Ramirez goal just 2 minutes later. This freeze frame shows Ramirez is on when Sam Cronin heads the ball in his direction. That's a good call, but it wasn't enough on the day. LA went on the road 2-1. To Red Bull Arena, where I thought the home side could have had a penalty after just 10 minutes when Toronto's Chris Mavinga uses both arms to prevent Alex Muil from getting to this ball in the box. But referee Robert Sabiga wasn't going for it. The match finished 1-1, but Toronto had a chance to win it late on a penalty kick. And it was a contentious one, not because of the actual foul that led to the penalty. Defender Damian Perinel does clatter into Tosaint Ricketts from behind, and that's a foul to me. But the argument centered around the start of the play when Josie Altidore and Red Bulls defender Aaron Long came together. New York wanted a foul there, and I also thought it was a foul on replay, but Sabiga said, play on. Altidore would step up to take the penalty, but goalkeeper Luis Robles came through with the save. Toronto thought they had a late winner once again with 2 minutes remaining when Ricketts knocked home this rebound, but the goal was called back by the referee, who judged Toronto's Raheem Edwards to be in an active offside position. So much so that Edwards has to raise his leg at the last minute for the shot to get past him and on frame. To get this call right, Sabiga had to work with his assistant, Claudio Badea, who you see here doesn't raise his flag, and with reason. The assistant referee can see that a player is offside, but he can't tell from his angle whether he was interfering with play. So Sabiga and Badea chatted, off camera in this case, and they made the joint decision, one I'd argue is the best decision of the week. There was another tight offside call in Foxborough in the 5th minute as Crua sees Mohamed Abu puts the ball into the back of the net, but he was ruled offside on the initial shot by teammate Federico Higuain. And when we freeze frame it, you see how tough a call that was to make, but it was the right one by assistant referee Matthew Nelson. The Revolution won the match 2-1, but they were reduced to 10 men in the final seconds after Andrew Farrell goes in with the high and wild lunging challenge on Crua C's Wylon Francis. And I thought referee Alan Kelly had no choice but to show the red there, and Farrell doesn't even protest. In Orlando, we saw 2 penalties called, one for each team. First, there was the 13th minute PK that was awarded to visiting New York City FC, and there's no doubt about that handball by Kaká of all people, who had his right arm outstretched and was clearly making an attempt to block the cross any way possible. Referee Mark Geiger calls it, and Kaká doesn't argue. And it was just as clear cut to me in the 63rd minute as New York City FC left back Ben Sweat uses both arms to bring down Orlando's Scott Sutter. But while David Villa puts away his spot kick, Orlando's Kyle Larin could not capitalize, sending the ball off the post. So Geiger got the calls right in my opinion, and so did assistant Kermit Quisenberry, who kept his flag down on NYCFC's 3rd goal. Villa's on, but in real time that was a harder call than it seemed to make. It always is when the forward and the defender cross pass like that. And we ended Philadelphia, where the Union fell behind at home, and they were appealing for a PK in the 40th minute when CJ Sapong goes down on the edge of the box. No call from referee Jose Carlos Rivero, and I agree. Sure, the arms of Rapids defender Axel Højbjerg are outstretched, but I thought Sapong was doing as much holding as Højbjerg. The Union did get their penalty equalizer in the second half, as Rapids defender Courtney Ford is judged to have committed a handball in the box. Some wanted a red shown to Ford for denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, but I don't agree, given that the Union player Jay Simpson does not have control of the ball, and there are also other Colorado defenders in the proximity. Here's the play I did think deserved a red card. Mohamed Sayed studs up tackle over the ball into Philly's Giuliano Wijnaldum. I thought that endangered the safety, especially given the force on the tackle, but the referee opts for a yellow. There was a red card in this game, and it's one of the most unusual ones you'll ever see. Let's jump to the 68th minute, when Rapids forward Caleb Calvert hits the deck after a challenge which was not sanctioned with a foul. Well, he stayed on the ground until the referee allowed the training staff to attend to him, and after some words with the assistant and taking a bit to leave the field of play, the referee shows him a yellow. Okay, so now Calvert wanted to come back into the match, and with the ball in play, he did so from the end line, the goal line, without the permission of the referee, and that was enough to earn a second yellow and a red card that left him stunned and the Rapids fuming. But it's absolutely justified. If you look carefully, you see here how assistant Anthony Vasoli was motioning to Calvert to go around to the sideline. And it turns out there's mention in the laws of the game, Law 5, that, quote, when the ball's in play, an injured player must re-enter the field of play from the touchline, that is the sideline, and that when the ball is out of play, the injured player may re-enter from any of the boundary lines, including the goal line or the end line. Obviously, only with the authorization of the referee. That explains why you see fourth official Soren Stoica motioning to Rapids manager Pablo Mastroeni that Calvert needed to move to one of the sidelines. What did you think of that play? Did you know the re-entry rule? Give us your thoughts in the comments. In the meantime, that's all from us for this week. For our editor, Abner Aceves, I'm Simon Borg. See you next time!